The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Mimicky McGee, Robert Winfrey. Yay!
Considering you started doing that to mimic me when I was doing it just to try and make you crack up during your intro a few years ago.
Robert, I have
Mark,
a question.
I might have an answer.
Do you TikTok? Do you whip? Do you nay-nay?
Okay. I'm not coming back on camera until you apologize to me for that.
Come back, Robert. We have to have a conversation.
No.
I have questions I have to ask you.
Okay, if they're serious questions.
I did a TikTok about why is Gen Z not having the sex. And
I saw it.
Before I say that, let me say this. I have not put this TikTok up yet, but I started noticing the more I got involved with mass rapid video social media things like TikTok, Reels, Shorts, etc., that there was Orwellian newspeak being used.
Oh, yeah. You can't say sex. You can't say murder, die, suicide, rape.
Right. If you say sex, you have to say schmex. You can't say porn. You have to say corn, as an ear of.
Okay. Do you know why?
No, shut up. There's a reason. I'm going somewhere with this.
All right.
You can't say rape. You have to say grape, which made me think of the Fruit of the Loom guy. And now I have that image in my head. Whoa. And it made what I do on there a little bit harder because I'm trying to tackle serious subjects for the most part, and I either have to not do that, but do it in Orwellian newspeak, which I categorically refuse to do because I will not succumb. I will not. I will rebel. I will resist. I will refuse. Or I will have to accept the punishment of being not a priority in the algorithm, which I'll live with. So, like I did one on Reagan, the demythologizing the Reagan economic boom, and I immediately got my sound crossed out, and they were like, "You violated content." I said Reagan gave the economy a line of coke and then told it to run a marathon, and whoop, you violated content. I appealed, I won, but on it,
you can't reference drugs.
Yeah. So, yes, sir. So, what I would normally have gotten a lot of engagement on, I got excruciatingly little. There's a reason why I say this. Now, so I did a whole thing, and I haven't put it up yet. I have a whole thing, my problem with corn and grape, which is coming probably next week. My addressing of the Orwellian newspeak we've been forced into.
You're not forced.
If you choose to engage in the medium. But here's what I really want to talk about. This has happened today.
All right.
I did a piece called about why Gen Z isn't having the sex, and somebody commented
again,
on
I
there,
saw it.
And somebody commented on there, are you ever going to talk about, or why aren't we talking about the amount of sexual assaults happening in elementary schools? And after my brain exploded, I went, what? So I interrogated this. I researched it. I dug in. And I found an alarming correlation between the absence of parenting, the access to screens, and the rise in sexual assaults happening in our youngsters. And I thought,
Who'd have
well,
thought?
this seems like something I should talk about. And I did. And two things happened. One, I kept triggering the ChatGPT content violation.
As I imagine you would, yes.
Like it was, I referenced news pieces. This thing was thoroughly researched. It was one of my longer ones. It was ready to go. And every time it would like print for me a script, it would then erase the script, and I would get in big friendly letters, red friendly letters, you have violated content policy. Please refrain. And here's what I want to share with you in our movie review podcast that people
because your large language model can't understand.
It was designed a certain way
things
by certain people. I'm not blaming the product. I'm going to blame the creators. But here's what I really want to throw out there. In a world where easy access to screens gives you access to age inappropriate sexual material, you can't talk about it, because if you do, you violate any number of content violation issues.
Sort of.
But in the same social media app, you can actually find the inappropriate material coming at you a zillion different ways. My 11-year-old should not be looking at adult material.
Correct.
You can find it on TikTok, but if I talk about him finding it, I get flagged. Me.
Yep.
And it's funny because before I threw my hands up about this, I went through 2 or 3 different tries before I finally had to ask the stupid thing, what are you doing? Why is this happening? And it said, oh, well, you can't talk about this publicly. And we went through a whole thing about why. And I said, well, write me what I can talk about. And it said, and it did. It wrote me a perfectly nice script about how we're letting algorithms raise our children. And I went, That's
not the issue.
This is the most sanitized BS about 100 miles away from where I started. And I tore up my phone and I threw it over my shoulder and I said, that's it. We're going back to inkwells and feather pens. Welcome to Damn You Hollywood, everyone.
So here's the thing about the newspeak that goes on social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Orwellian in the sense that Orwellian newspeak is instituted from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
This is self-selected by people so that they can be friendlier to advertisers. It's a lot more insidious than an authoritarian dictate, believe it or not.
That's fair. Anyway, hey Robert, what are we talking about tonight? Hang on. Speaking of Orwellian newspeak, Robert, which movie are we reviewing?
So, something neither of us really want to talk about, but we are talking about Jurassic World Rebirth, Afterbirth, Intrabirth,
yes, sir.
Antibirth.
Jurassic World Afterbirth. Hey, that violates content policy.
I half stole one of those from the Critical Drinker because all of his buddies used it, and I think it's not an unfair descriptor.
I haven't watched any secondary stuff on this. I haven't watched any of the reviews, so I'm going into this wait.
I held off on pretty much all of them until after I saw it today.
Yeah.
I saw the Drinker's title for his review and went, oh no.
Yikes.
And I mostly agree with him.
Yeah, Echo Chamberlain also did something on this, and he hasn't been talking about a lot of movies lately, so this one must especially have rubbed him the wrong way and not in the good way.
Oh, yes. I watched his review, too. He has some fun wordplay that he goes through.
Oh, wonderful. Maybe I'll watch it later when I put away laundry.
You should.
Jurassic World... and now for Mark and Robert Review the Internet. Jurassic World Rebirth is a 2025 American science fiction thriller film directed by Gareth Edwards and written by David Koepp. A standalone
David Koepp being the Alan Smithy for whatever large language model they fed this thing through. This is horribly written.
A standalone sequel to Jurassic World Dominion. It is the fourth Jurassic World film and the 7th install. Shut up! Overall in the Jurassic Park franchise, which is also frightening in the dark. All the dinosaurs are in fact running wild. The film stars Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey, Rupert Friend, Manuel Garcia-Rulfo, and Ed Skrein. Work on the film began shortly after the release of Jurassic World Dominion, when executive producer Steven Spielberg recruited Koepp to help him develop a new installment in the series. Oh, God, we're going to get more of these. Koepp.
Mark.
I told you this was a pilot. I told you this was a pilot.
It's not a pilot. This is just the first in another trilogy, and I will yell about that momentarily.
Koepp previously co-wrote the original Jurassic Park film, 1993, and wrote a sequel, The Lost World, in 1997. Development of Rebirth was first reported in January of 2024. Edwards was hired as director a month later, and casting commenced shortly thereafter. Principal photography took place in Thailand, Malta, and the United Kingdom from June to September of 2024. Yikes, no wonder this film sucks so bad. Jurassic World Rebirth premiered
Rushed.
on June 17th, 2025 at the Odeon Leicester Square in London, and was released in the US and Canada by Universal Pictures on July 2nd. Hey, guess what? It received mixed reviews from critics, with some deeming it an improvement over the previous entries. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mark.
Robert.
How is it possible that every one of these movies in this godforsaken never should have been a franchise is worse than the one that came before it?
Yeah.
I will grant you were never going to equal Jurassic Park. That is a stone cold classic, one of the best movies ever. That's always a step down. You're always going to have a step down from that. Predator 2 is a step down from Predator. Die Hard 2 is a giant step down from Die Hard. We can go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Most movies that get 7 sequels. There's 7 total entries. Somewhere there's a bounce back. Somewhere there's a leveling.
In fairness,
no.
The defense would like to present its case. Many intellectuals, many of you intelligentsia, you snobs, dismissed Jurassic World out of hand. But for the rest of us mortals who enjoy a good row, Jurassic World was just fine. However, so there's your bounce back. There's your kip.
So I will grant there is an argument about Jurassic Park 3 versus Jurassic World. That you can have some debate there. It helps that they took like a 10-year gap between those two movies. But we're going to try and pretend that, look, Jurassic World is not better than Lost World. It's not.
We're gonna get in the weeds here, but I don't agree with that. But I'm gonna let you make your case, because we always talk a bit before we talk a bit before you have to talk more and tell us about the plot. So, 50 words or less, Shecky.
No, look, Jurassic World is a decent premise, and then it's a fairly poor story. Like, everybody we finally got your big thing for the longest time has been, I finally got my working dinosaur park, and then everything went sideways for one scene where everyone hides from the giant pterodactyls. No one remembers the actual movie. You remember, I know this because this happens to me with other things. It happens to my brothers. But I have a brother who every now and then decides he wants to rewatch X-Men Origins Wolverine because he remembers the good parts. And if all you remember of that movie is the good parts, it's actually a pretty decent little action flick.
Here's the one morsel I will throw behind your argument. I watched Jurassic World recently with my kids, about a month or so ago. And my son, who is patient and movie trained and an intellectual and, going to be on the arc that separates itself from humanity as it burns, he'll be one of the chosen.
He will.
Yeah. But he even said to me, he looked at me, he's like, do they ever get attacked by dinosaurs in this movie? And I'm like, it's coming. Don't worry. It's like a Clutch song. Don't worry. It's coming. Jesus on the dashboard. And he went, all right. And he waited and he waited and he waited. And you're right. Then there's the pterodactyl scene. And he's like, is this it? Is this the dinosaurs attack the park scene? And I'm like, yes. He was like, well, this is cool, but why did I have to wait 2 hours for this? Like, shouldn't we have gotten this throughout the movie? And I'm like, you're not wrong. You had the same problem with snakes on a plane.
I don't have the same problem with snakes.
Snakes on a Plane builds up to like the big snake attack, and then they break for a while, then there's another snake attack, and then they break one more time, and then we're into the end of the movie.
I also don't hold something like Snakes on a Plane to the same standard I do kind of expect out of something like Jurassic World.
The point of me bringing them up is while they're not totally paced the same way to make this point, his whole thing was, if the premise of the movie is this one thing, why are we waiting this long to get to the one thing? And as a counter to that, Independence Day blows up the world in the first act. It's at the end of the first act, but it's in the first act. It's closer to Snakes on a Plane than it is anything else. But everyone went to go see Independence Day to watch the White House, the Empire State Building, the Capitol Records Building, I think it is. And, gosh, there's a fourth one, isn't there? The Empire
there's only three. There's three over the United States. There's New York, Washington, and Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah. So you go to watch them blow up, and they blow up at the end of the first act. To his point. So yes, Jurassic World. They make you wait for it. They make you wait for it. They make you wait for it. And the scene itself is good, but if that's all you went for, it's a bit of a letdown. Sure.
It doesn't offer anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It offers a T-Rex being outrun by Bryce Dallas Howard in heels.
There's the what do you call it? The monster triple threat, the triple threat at the end.
It offers this godforsaken B plot where Vincent D'Onofrio is like chewing scenery for no reason as he nebulously says we're going to weaponize dinosaurs.
Okay, so getting to your conclusion so we can get into the plot synopsis.
This movie is every bit as dumb as that.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't everyone who's looked at this movie critically just kind of shrugs at it and goes, Mark, you've seen Multiplicity.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know the last one that's a copy of a copy and they're warned, don't Xerox a Xerox?
Right.
That's what this movie is. It is a fourth iteration copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, where everything definable, interesting, or even intelligible about it has been smeared, blurred, obfuscated, or destroyed.
I'm going to challenge you then, since we both kind of more or less to one degree or another feel the same way about this movie. I'm going to challenge you to do the plot synopsis in 5 minutes.
Oh, sure.
Okay. It's currently, we have been on this godforsaken podcast for 17 minutes, 30 seconds. So I'll give you the extra 30 seconds since I'm talking over it. But when we get to 23 minutes, I'm calling time wherever we are.
Well, we'll see how this goes. So 17 years ago, during genetic experimentation, some moron had product placement in the form of a Snickers bar that got into a clean room that got sucked into a vent that somehow shorted out the entire security system and led to the release of all of these horrible mutated monsters. Fast forward, and now dinosaurs are back on a small number of islands around the equator because we must hit the factory reset button on every one of these things. The status quo. There's a shady businessman, because there's always a shady businessman, who hires mercenary lady Scarlett Johansson.
I won't hold this against you, but I referred to him as the Burke. Every movie has a Burke.
Yeah, but none of them are as good, including this guy. More on that later.
Copy of a copy.
They hire nerdy science guy as well to embark on an expedition to the island to obtain genetic material from the three biggest dinosaurs because their genetic material will help us develop cures for heart disease instead of diet and exercise. More on that later. So they need one from the land, one from the sea, one from the air because video game logic. So they all go down, they meet Mahershala Ali, who's like, I'm doing everything except Blade, and all the costumes were sold off from that movie to Sinners because that's what we're doing. And around the same time, we get the B plot, where the biggest group of retard shitheads that I've seen on screen this side of the last slasher movie I watched are sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. It's a dad, his little daughter, his teenage daughter is going to NYU and is a strong, independent woman who does need this lazy fuckboy who she's brought with her.
Oh my God. Ooh.
And they're attacked by a mosasaur. They're capsized. They put out a distress signal, and our other group of heroes hear this, abandon their prize, go back to rescue them. They rescue them. They then go. We get our Jaws homage where we get blood from the mosasaur. The mosasaur then attacks, and the ship gets wrecked because, of course, it does. We get separated because, of course, we do. We wind up on the island, and our group of mercenary starts losing people because there has to be a moderate body count in this. But we find Titanosaurus, and who are in mating season but aren't aggressive in mating season for some reason. This is where we get our big, here's the herbivore, and the music swells, and we're supposed to feel something because John Williams is still a god. And the other group starts trying to make their way following geothermal pipes towards the central location where we're all going to regroup later, and they're attacked by a T-Rex along the way. And nothing of consequence happens apart from their merchandising opportunity that the small child carries around, because we need a baby Yoda. Everyone else, we then get DNA from the egg of one of the Quetzalcoatl. It's a giant, it's a big pteranodon. It's huge. Another person dies. They start making their way towards because we have a small window of time, no matter how like illegal this is all supposed to be. There is a helicopter that will be showing up at a certain time. So everyone meets back up at this helipad. This is the facility that at the beginning, and there's still a Snickers wrapper lodged somewhere in the ventilation system. And they're attacked by mutant creatures. Their helicopter is then destroyed by the Orcus Rex, which then chases them, and Mahershala Ali sacrifices himself to let them all escape on a boat that they found, except that tested poorly, so he's okay. Deus Ex Machina style. And they all leave. Oh, the shady businessman died along the way, because of course he did. And as everyone heads off, tough mercenary lady and nerdy science guy go, well, what do we do with all this genetic material we've collected? We can turn it into the company that hired us and make millions and millions of dollars, or we can just give it away for free. And they choose the good ending, theoretically. Let's give it to everyone, and then we will cure everyone of heart disease and let them continue to progress towards Wall-E status. And that's it. That's this terrible, terrible movie.
I'm impressed, Robert. You got that in under about 45 seconds early. You can do this. I'm proud of you.
Of course I can. The fact that I choose not to is to amuse myself and others.
I swear to God, it's like you summon the ghost of William S. Burroughs, and it's like you've turned these plot synopses into fucking beat poetry for some strange reason.
I'll try not to be offended by that.
Anyway, next time, I swear to God, the next plot, like the plot synopsis for Superman, which I'm sure will be unwieldy, I'm gonna actually just like beat a drum while you do it, like. Superman plays bongos. Oh,
anyway,
I didn't hate this movie. I didn't love it. Every time they threatened the little girl, I actually was on the seat of my. Not that I thought they'd kill the little girl, but I was legitimately like, "Oh my goodness!" It was like the only palpable tension in the movie for me. I don't care if it didn't affect you. I'm talking about what affected me. And I would imagine.
I'm just shaking my head at you. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I would imagine a fair number of people. Every time they threatened the little girl, at the very least, the little girl, maybe some other members of that family, felt the tension.
No, I was rooting for the dinosaurs. That whole group, I wanted them to die.
Okay, Chris Radledge, you can't base it just on your experience.
No, I'm giving you my perspective on it. That's
okay.
all.
What I'm trying to say is, I'm going to imagine most people had a very similar feeling of every time the dinosaurs threatened the family, there was a little bit more personal investment in the movie. But nowhere else is there really any kind of tension. Scarlett Johansson's entire character is based on Scarlett Johansson. She is go ahead.
Her character she's not a character. There's no arc. She vacillates between painted on fake warmth, bad flirting, hardened mercenary, and traumatized soldier, and ping-pongs irrationally between those points.
You know what she is? Because this was developed in 2024 at the tail end of the Girl Boss Gate. This is a lot of studio notes going over the script, going, you can't make her Rey Skywalker, and so she's Poochie. She's because she's Scarlett Johansson already. She's pretty. She's affable. She needs help, but she can give help. She's like they are trying to make that character, that person, everything to everybody. And Scarlett Johansson, I'm sure, looked at that character, looked at her her part in the movie and just went, I'm just gonna play myself. I'm a little tismy. I'm a little awkward, but I'm really pretty and I can get away with that. And I have huge boobs. And if I'm just not insufferable, I'll be fine and no one will attack me. And that is her entire character in this movie, which worked for me, quite frankly. It was a nice change of pace.
Mark, the fact that your standards shouldn't shift.
It's not a standard thing, Robert. I can interrogate the writing and the character without hating it. I know what it is. I see it, and I'm calling. It's like you're reacting. It's like it's not good enough. That's not good enough, Dad. I'm calling it out. I'm telling you what it is, but I'm telling you it also didn't bother me.
All right.
Thank you.
The baseline has just been shifted on entertainment so far over the last 20 years.
Yeah, but again,
this has become acceptable.
But it's not that it's acceptable. It was personally enjoyable versus acceptable. It's not acceptable in terms of writing and in terms of like what are we doing with characters in movies. However, it is entertaining to me and probably to a lot of people. That
More
said,
on that later.
Yeah. Wait till you see the Rotten Tomato scores on this.
I was going to say, wait till you see the money.
Yeah, that too. So anyway, the thing about Jurassic Park is that it used to be a spectacle, partially because of the CGI that was used in the original Jurassic Park. And then with Jurassic World, like I said, it's such a big set piece that they're working with. Regardless of how it was paced and plotted out, it in of itself was presented as spectacle and was treated as such in box office receipts. And we keep doing Jurassic Park movies without spectacle. So it's like there's two of them with, and then the rest without, and this is another one without. I said to Robert before the show started tonight, I said this felt like the pilot episode of Jurassic Park, the television show. Which I said to my kids, and like our collective reaction at the end of the movie was it was all right. And like I think we had like a few exchanges and then we were done talking about the movie. Like it did not stay with us in any way worth talking about. And it should. It's a $180 million movie. And this is what I really want to drive home here. Because there's a guy who commented on one of my TikToks like, oh my God, with you guys, every movie has to be Citizen Kane. No. Only the Citizen Kane movies have to be Citizen Kane. If you're making a $180 million movie, there should be an expectation of spectacle to go along with the budget. Otherwise, why would you greenlight it with that budget?
I'd settle for competence.
That's the thing. Like, if you're going to spend this much money on a movie, it should follow that the craft and everything else about it should be equally as good, if not better. And it's not. They did a high budget movie and they didn't put a lot of effort into this. They got pretty faces, kinda. They got Scarlett Johansson. They got Mahershala Ali. They got the handsome nerdy guy, which he did the thing where you see it like teen rom-coms and shit, where the nerdy girl gets a makeover and all she does is take her ponytail out. It was kind of him. It was just like, we want him to be really nerdy, so that he'll have that kind of weird sexual chemistry with Scarlett Johansson, but he has to survive in a jungle, and we can't make him Spiro Agnew. So, like, so we'll find this really hot man, and we'll throw glasses on him like Clark Kent. Voila, nerd. Anyway,
he's wearing a sweater, Mark. When we meet him, he's wearing a sweater. Clearly, this is the nerdiest of the nerdy.
As all nudes do. Like toughies wear leather jackets, and all nerds wear sweaters. It doesn't matter what the weather is. So anyway, the plot is rock stupid and really basic, and been talking a lot.
Driven by contrivance, convenience, and the will of the plot.
Well, this is also like this feels like a leftover script from a Jurassic World video game that never got made.
Yeah, really.
Go here, get this thingamadoo, this whatchamacallit, fight a boss, rinse, repeat, fight the final boss, get off the island, roll credits. This was a video game I wasn't allowed to play. I had to watch. This is like the cutscene from Injustice. Outside of that, like the Burke character, if you're going to do a Burke, make him Burky. Don't make him.
I have to bring this up.
Yeah.
He's a shady businessman because it's a Jurassic Park movie, so there must be a shady businessman. This is what the algorithm demands. He doesn't do. Okay. You're right about Burke. I think you're going to be talking about like the performance that Reiser gives and how kind of smarmy he comes across.
You have to put people in harm's way in order to save the doohickey that you wanted. That's what makes Burke in Aliens is that he was willing to sacrifice a small girl in order to get this fucking alien home. This child's life didn't matter. Yes, Ripley was there too, but it was really about Newt. He was willing to
willing to throw alien embryos into the two people that we are like most attached to.
Yeah, it's a very much play on sympathy kind of a thing. But again, knowing how humans operate, when you're deciding to sacrifice the small blonde white girl in order to bring home the biological weapon, it makes you Satan. That's what happened there. And then because he's so nebbish about the whole thing, we aren't at all looking at a particular group of people with that. In any case, so
don't read into it that much, Mark.
So, anywho, my point is they went out of their way to do that with him, and accordingly got the right reaction. He's played this slimy business guy's played so straight in this that I don't feel that level of. I don't remember the word I'm looking for here, but that level of satisfaction. Satisfaction is word. I don't feel the level of satisfaction I'm supposed to feel when he finally dies.
First of all, the word you're looking for is catharsis. Second of all,
sure.
Here's kind of the problem that you run into with this businessman. His smarminess is not really present on a performance level.
Right.
He's actually a bit like he gets menaced by an 18-year-old girl at one point, and the only thing he can do is pull a gun.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously.
Honestly, if they were going to do that, they should have gotten Adam Devine. Then I buy it.
Sure. but he's too soft. He's too doughy. We can't have Adam Devine here. Anyway. So, one, again, he's missing that as element of performance, which is a big problem. Two, there's an inherent degree of sympathy that you engender with characters that we get to know even slightly broadly, put in a really bad situation, made worse by the smarmy company man's actions. This is like the start of Burke's turn in Aliens, because we start feeling weird about him long before we get confirmation, right?
Right.
Because it's a well-written movie. And all of that is absent here for a couple of very specific reasons. One, the family is too rock stupid to be sympathetic. Two,
what was the casting for the daughter like? Like, we need a girl that looks like live action Dora the Explorer, and this kid got the part because it wasn't about her acting. I can tell you that much.
I hate to phrase it this way, be the right ethnicity.
Sure.
So two, the other group of our mercenary band has no character. The only one outside of Mercenary Woman and Mahershala Ali that gets any dialogue of any import is killed on the boat. So there's no. Third, so we don't care about any of these characters. The performance isn't there to read smarmy, surreptitious character. Third, everyone bought into exactly what was happening here. He's not actually threatening the family at all. They're gone. They split up and they reconvene. And because we're trying to develop a little bit of heat for this guy, he doesn't jump to save the teenage girl falling off the boat being menaced by dinosaurs. This constitutes a grave injustice.
I want to talk about, speaking of injustices, look, Robert and I are kind of a Venn diagram of political ideas. There are things we agree on. There are things that we're very far apart on. There are things we're closer to agreement on, but not totally. It's not really worth laying all those things out. I've known this man for 15 years, longer than I was married for. Just about the same time. Yeah, no. Anyway, I've known him for a long time.
Give it
North
another
of a
year.
decade. Yeah. And we've had a lot of conversations. I know about where he stands on most things. Maybe those things have changed over time. So my point with bringing that up is he knows that I lean on most things slightly more progressive than I do conservative. I am a social worker professionally after all. But even I, at the end of this movie, was like, come on, man. The words wish fulfillment get thrown around a lot these days. And I'm watching this movie, and it's like we went through all of this, got a lot of people killed, nearly ourselves. We're all fucking traumatized. And when asked what should we do with this genetic, material, this life-saving material, the answer is give it to the proletariat. Not come back, use it to make drugs, sell those drugs, for a return on investment. No, we're going to make as many of the drugs that we can with what material I don't know, and then we're going to give it to everybody for free. We're going to, we're going to cure all the diseases. And what's great about this is if you don't think about it at all, not even a little bit, you're like, oh, isn't that what a wonderful thing they're doing? Oh, our good guys are doing good things. They've got, miracle drugs in this suitcase that they can use to cure diseases far and wide. And it's good that everyone doesn't have to pay zillions of dollars for medication. These are good things, and we should say they are good things. Except that if you actually did that, the fucking turmoil you would create, number one. Number two, I hate to tell you this, but you cure one disease and another one pops up again. This is an ongoing thing. This need to create the great utopia in some people is... And I only bring it up because it was so fucking apparent in this at the end. Like, there was no, like, hemming and hawing about it. There was no just real discussion of the pros and cons. It was like, it was presented as, well, of course we would want to give free drugs to people, as many as we can. Why wouldn't we? And it's like, this is a child's idea. This is my son, before we went into the Weezer concert in 2021, asking, well, why don't we just give people homes and money? That would cure homelessness. He was 7 at the time. It's that level.
Yeah, and again, if you think about it, his whole thing is, well, what if we open source it? If we just put all this information on the internet, basically, then all the drug companies can make versions of this, and no one gets to monopolize it. Like, that's not gonna mean they're gonna like. How does that stop them from still charging you an arm and a leg for this product?
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is written at a 7-year-old's level.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know about because you go like early in the morning on a Tuesday behind the door that says "Beware of the Jackal," but leopard. I went on. Doesn't really matter. I know it's leopard, but I wanted to change it to Jackal because.
No, it matters. I've seen what's behind the door that says "Beware of the Jackal," and I ain't going in there.
Anywho. So Robert goes when the theater is closed, and it's nothing but 3 raccoons in a suit jacket, all just hanging out watching movies.
Yeah, Jerry, Mike, and Sal.
I went on Sunday, and it was a fairly full theater, and I saw it in the Dolby Theater at my local. And unfortunately, to my son's chagrin, to the right of us is a family of children of various ages, one of which is a baby. And I kept looking over, like, you brought her to a monster/slasher movie. Why would you do that? Because it's dinosaurs. That's why. And dinosaurs equal children's movie now. That's the world we live in. And I think it's like PG-13. I don't even think it's rated R. So it's like I can kind of...
There's no reason for this to be R.
Yeah. But that's my point. Like, there were certain... the PG-13 is PG-13 for a reason. It's probably not the world's best thing to bring, like, your toddler to. And the toddler was having a struggle with this movie. But I'll tell you, they wrote for the toddler. They absolutely wrote this movie because they were expecting a very young, and I mean this sincerely. I'm laughing about it and making it funny, but they literally wrote this for children to follow, which is why it follows a video game structure. This is a better video game than the Minecraft movie.
Yeah. So my issues with this movie are numerous. Not to mention, look, there's no character arc here. There's nothing approximating it.
No, they accomplished the mission. That was the character arc.
There's no character development. There's no character exploration. Like, you don't need to develop a character as long you can get away with character revelation instead of character development if you know what you're doing. We don't get that either, by the way. Like there's certain stories where the character doesn't develop or change over the course of the story, but our understanding of them changes.
So,
And
in a better written movie, Scarlett Johansson or Mahershala Ali, one of the two, starts off in a really bad place, and by the end of the movie, they have redeemed themselves in some way, either by sacrifice or by saving or both. And none of those things happen in this movie. Mahershala Ali is the same as he was from beginning to end, as is Scarlett Johansson.
in a better written movie, there is no family B plot. Look, that was tacked on by a studio executive who went, "We need a Baby Yoda merchandising opportunity."
There's a couple of things. One, we want to sell this to Latinos, so there has to be Latinos in it because that's the mentality.
Because
Two, we have to
postmodernism has destroyed universalist storytelling, and now everything has to be, can I see myself mirrored on screen?
Two, you can disagree with it all you want, and you know for a fact that things don't affect you the way they affect a lot of people, so just accept that. They created this family so they could put them in danger, creating a lot of scenes of artificial tension. Because if you do it too much with the other characters, one, the plot doesn't move along enough, but also these are supposed to be capable people, that they're mercenaries sent to go monster killing. You put the family in danger, they're not able to defend themselves. There's more artificial tension. It's a cheap writing technique, but that's what it is.
And third, again,
hang on. They are taking the place of the princess in the adventure story. Go on.
And third, we need a kid to tote around our plushie merchandise opportunity.
Yes, sir. Everyone will have a pet dinosaur at the end of this movie.
So they need to go away. The characters of Mahershala Ali and Scarlett Johansson need to be one character. There's no reason for them to be two, right?
No legitimate reason. There's absolutely a modern reason. Well, we need a pretty girl, preferably a pretty white one, or we're going to get called names. And we also have to have a black guy in this, because if we don't, people are going to get aggravated with us and they're going to call us names. I guarantee you this was a much different script when it first started, and then it got noted the fuck out of.
I completely agree on. So then the mercenary character needs to pick a lane about what kind of character you are. Frankly, this would have been more interesting if the director had gone to Scarlett Johansson and said, "No, I need you to be cold. I need you to be a robot." Okay, see this? Watch Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2. Mm-hmm. This is what I need from you. That's the kind of character you need to be, and by the end of it, you will be changed slightly through your interactions with our nerd and through the sort of accumulated trauma that you've gathered up, and you will do the self-sacrifice thing at the end because it's the only way you can find to live with yourself. And that's a character arc, and it's actually a moderately fleshed out character, and we could have done something a little bit with that. But we don't, because we split the role, and Scarlett Johansson is ping-ponging randomly between types. The nerd doesn't do anything of value other than spew liberal talking points, and I don't say that very often, by the way. When was the last time I got on this podcast and said, so-and-so is just a mouthpiece for your political ideology?
I slightly hinted that Burke was a little too nebbish for me, for comfort for my taste in retrospect, and you chided me 5 minutes later. And another thing about this liberal think piece. Like, what the fuck, Robert?
I'm talking about this character, not the whole movie.
Yes, I understand.
More importantly, I'm drawing a political line, not an ethnic one.
Okay.
Although James Cameron being a little bit that way wouldn't surprise me.
A little bit? Move on. Just
saying. I guarantee you, when we get to Earth in his Avatar series, when child Avatar, the Avatar who was like gone to the four elements and has merged now with the planet, and the planet of Pandora is streaking across the sky to confront Unicron, because this is where we're going with this. And we get to Earth, you know who's going to be in charge and this overseeing the destruction of the planet.
Yes.
Because James Cameron. Anyway.
President Dewey McBagel.
Him and Michael Bay, man. Michael Bay hires John Turturro just for that reason.
It's like, is it racist when it's so unintentional? It's like, really? Anyway,
I
go
almost
on.
have to think it is. Like,
I'm
you
not
can't
racist.
completely-
It's like, I'm not racist. I'm autistic. There's a difference. Like, all right, James Cameron,
You
sit down.
kind of there is. You kind of have to go with that at some point. Otherwise, we get stuck putting disclaimers in front of Rush Hour.
Yes, move this on, please.
Anywho, so that needs to be fixed. And again,
Later on, when I have to feed this to the AI for my 1 minute TikTok, I guarantee you it's pulling that line out. I'm not racist. I'm autistic.
probably
This will be the title.
a good line.
Piece.
That's the Michael Bay defense.
Good job, Robert.
I believe you used that exact line to describe Terminator, to describe the second Transformers movie when you guys did the Long Road to Ruin on that, and he has the racist robots.
That's probably something I would say. Yes.
And Michael Bay's a little bit autistic.
I got my law degree from the Johnny Cochran Law School.
Mine comes from the University of American Samoa.
Okay.
Which is a reference that I don't think anyone will get, but
okay. I am begging you.
So our nerd character is here to like guilt everyone into agreeing with him.
Yeah.
And this is dumb. Like, make him a real character instead of a mouthpiece for your social agenda. The marketing for this movie made it seem like our cave troll T-Rex doohickey was going to feature a bit more prominently in this. And it's briefly featured in our prologue and then shows up for less than 2 minutes at the end. I understand the theory behind like less is more with some of these things. I really do. But at a certain point, you do have to deliver on what you promise.
I think if someone's asking what makes this Jurassic Park movie different from any other Jurassic Park, like what's the wow factor, and someone goes mutant dinosaurs, we needed more mutants more often.
I wouldn't like that can be your elevator pitch, but you then have to like put the mutant dinosaurs in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You needed more of them.
You have this theory, like in theory, you can do anything with this. And all we do is encounter regular dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Till the very end.
I feel like if you're going to have the T-Rex chasing the Hispanic family, the T-Rex should have had a top hat and a cane and a monocle.
I'd have settled for it being feathered like an actual T-Rex.
God. Like it sprouts wings like a bat. That'd have been great. Oh my God. This would have been great. This would have been my pitch. Like it's doing the bit where it's smacking its nose into the thing. They go through the break in the rock, and the T-Rex is dumb and it's like not figuring out what to do. So it's just
the big rock wall that it could totally just lean over.
Yeah, it could have just looked over and be like, I fucking see you.
Yeah.
What they should have done is that same bit, but like they think like it's gone now, and then you just see the thing like fucking fly up like like Batman. And the lazy kid just looks up and goes, "It flies now," because that's what we're doing in Hollywood.
The lazy kid who I hated that guy so much. I wanted him to die.
I did like his just straight up lazy. All right.
There's a line at one point, like we're stranded on this island, and the question is asked, like, okay, like, the idea is put forward. We're going to follow these power pipes because this facility runs on geothermal power. So we're going to follow these conveniently above ground pipes that haven't been damaged. And well, that should get us to where we need to go. Unless someone has a better idea. And this idiot just goes, well, I got weed.
All right. Anything else about this movie?
So much.
Okay. We're not going an hour. We're not going an hour, over an hour in before we get to the next segment. So you have 11 minutes. Don't use all of them.
Okay, let me be positive about one part of this movie, because otherwise it's going to come across like I'm being unfair. The scene where the T-Rex is chasing the family is actually well done, apart from the ninja T-Rex bit to start, which I just find tedious.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's actually a little bit of atmosphere and menace to it, walking them down and just being this big predator that like Even if it doesn't want to eat you, if it's just curious about you, it can still kill you.
Yeah.
So that whole sequence, apart from the stupid way it ends, the vast majority of that sequence I actually thought was fairly well done. Gareth Edwards has a trick that he does, and he overuses it in this movie, where he wants you to look a little bit off screen. Like there's something happening in the background that's a little bit out of focus, but it's really important that you pay attention to it. And I like the trick, but he goes to it too often here. The number of times the will of the author saves characters in this movie bothers me. Like, legitimately just bothers me. Like, douchebag with the weed at one point is out relieving himself, and there's two raptors stalking up on him in the background. And then one of the mutant, like, flying raptor T-Rex doohickeys lands on one of the raptors and kills it and flies off with it. And it's the only reason this idiot's alive, is the will of the author. I mean, there's so much stupid writing in this movie. The product placement in this movie drove me up the wall. Here's a Snickers bar. Make sure the logo's very visible.
Okay, that was actually the worst part of the movie for me, was the things you have to believe in order for you to get to the point where you will accept that a guy's going to eat a Snickers bar in a clean room.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't know what to do with the wrapper, so he just lets it drop, and it gets sucked through a vent. And because of doing so, the entire fucking place shorts out.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't my old home where if there was too much lightning, we lost power. It's a fucking state-of-the-art laboratory with, that's caging large mutant animals. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, normally when a containment facility has a power issue like that, things lock down, not open.
Dude, the jail I worked in was on generators. Every hurricane, or just because they were working on something, or for God forbid there was just a regular power issue, the lights flickered for a second and we were on generators immediately. We had electronic doors. If the power went out, the doors didn't just fucking fly open.
Yeah.
The prisoners just yahoo! As they're all running out of there to be then shot by the sheriff's office. But my point is
one could hope
that's not how that works.
No, it's not. Yeah, Mahershala Ali surviving at the end really bothered me, because that reeked of, we shot this, he died, and people were like, but he died in the test audience.
That's not what happened. The test audience went, what is this racist bullshit? Why do you have to kill the black guy at the end? And then Universal was like, sorry, we'll fix it.
I mean, that it got leaked that there was a scene in the upcoming Superman movie where one of the villains, I think it's Ultraman, punches Crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And they cut it because, test audiences didn't like him punching the dog. At which point I have to go, he's the villain. Why have we reached a point where the villains are just mild annoyances instead of people that are supposed to generate real anger at them? This is my other gripe with our shady businessman here. What's he do that's so wrong? At any point.
He made money. That's what he did wrong in this world. He's
white and successful. That's kind of it.
That's all you need, Robert. You have 7 minutes left.
This movie feels like it was written by a large language model.
Mm-hmm. At a 7-year-old's level.
Yeah. It is bereft of ideas. It is bereft of talking points. It is bereft of interest. It is bereft of tension, to my way of thinking. Your mileage will vary. It is bereft of spectacle. The closest we get is, boy, hey, you think there's going to be a scene in your Jurassic Park movie where the nerdy scientist sees the big herbivore and we get the classic John Williams music swell? Do you think that's a thing that's going to happen in your Jurassic Park movie, Mark?
It is, again, one of those things where it worked. The Kobayashi Maru works in Star Trek Through the Wrath of Khan because you don't see it. When you see it, it stops working. The thing in Jurassic Park, the first time all of us saw the Brontosauruses, it worked because we were all having that shared cultural experience. This is a bad cover.
Here's the other reason that worked, and this needs to be said. That works because of Sam Neill for the most part. Like,
Mhm.
everyone plays a role in there. It's all great. The John Williams score is what really sells it. Like, 'cause John Williams is a genius. But think about the arc. It's a small arc, but there's multiple for the character throughout the course of the movie because it's a well-written movie. Think about where we start with Alan Grant. He's on a fossil dig in the Badlands of Montana. He's a little bit annoyed by most of the people around him. He's a little bit off-put. He's upset because, he's trying to make a go of this, and it's hard. So it's a hard thing to be a paleontologist. And there's kids there, and he doesn't like kids. And he's got the couple of people that he gets along with, and that's it. And then this rich guy comes along and says, "I will provide you funding if you do me a thing." And he's bribed into this. Like, he's not enthusiastic or eager about this opportunity presented to him. He's
Well,
cajoled.
he thinks he's full of shit, but he wants the money, so he goes.
Yeah. So point being, he's a bit reluctant. He's a little bit like, what are we doing here? He's a little bit prickly, a little bit standoffish. And then the moment he sees the Brontosaurus or the Brachiosaurus, the unabashed, unironic, unself-conscious shock, awe, and amazement. Nowadays, there'd be a quippy remark at the end of that because that's what passes for dialogue, and everyone just has to lean on bathos because none of the writers are confident enough in taking the audience along an emotional journey. But we get a mini arc for that character very quickly. What do we get from this? What do we get from Nerd in this movie? Haven't you ever seen a dinosaur in the wild? Well, yeah, they're kind of all. There's one dying down the street, man. Well, no, if you haven't seen one in the wild, you're just a guy who goes to zoos. Yeah, you know what? If I go to a zoo and I see a lion, I've seen a lion. I don't need to go on a walking safari without a gun where I can be eaten to see a lion. I've seen a lion. And when they're trying to okay, we're going to arm ourselves in case things go sideways. And he goes, "It's a sin to kill a dinosaur." Just shut up.
The dinosaurs that by this point they make a point of saying this at the beginning of the movie, then we're going into the money. The world has become too inhospitable to the dinosaurs that we created, so they're dying off naturally. That's why they're in these remote parts of the world, because the only place they can exist that are still oxygen rich enough are at the equator. Go ahead.
There's a couple of reasons for this, some of which have been pointed out by anyone with a half-functioning brain about this. The climate changed over the course of the Cretaceous and Jurassic periods. It's why we left the Cretaceous period and entered the Jurassic period. Climate change, Mark. But I hear you saying, but how could the climate change without humans on the Earth? At which point I dismiss you. Okay. You're an unserious person. Hang on. My joke aside. The existence of dinosaurs relied on, more oxygenated air and mega flora that they had to eat to sustain themselves that does not exist anymore. To say nothing of millions of years of evolved germs.
Right. It's funny. This will be the last thing. There's a really great book. I read it years ago. It won the Pulitzer Prize, called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And the germs in Guns, Germs, and Steel is the quicker groups of humans were able to domesticate animals, the quicker they got killed by diseases those animals carried. The faster they then developed immunities to them. And so then when they migrated and carried those diseases with them with their own immunities, they would kill the local people around them. And this just kept replicating over and over and over again.
If you want to know something really weird, this is why Europeans dominated expansion in
that's his premise in Guns, Germs, and Steel. That is the premise of the book he wrote, Robert. Yes. So
so for anyone who hasn't read it, because so much of Europe lies along a small enough longitudinal band, and crops, animals, and whatnot transfer along lines of longitude fairly easily. In fact, if you're in the same longitudinal band, they will just survive wherever you go along that band, barring elevation changes, stuff like that. But for the most part, so this allows for very easy travel, very easy trade. And Europe, the Eurasian continent, is laid out longitudinally. Africa and the Americas are not laid out that way, so there's not as much cross-pollination of germs between cultures. There's not as much cross-pollination of culture.
So unless they dealt with this in the original Jurassic Park, which I don't remember them talking about. Maybe they did. Who the fuck knows? I don't think anyone cares. But theoretically, so dinosaurs wouldn't have lasted that long on current day Earth. They'd have died by airborne diseases for the most part.
Almost certainly.
So dying by airborne diseases is the phrase that pays here on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network.
This movie qualifies as an airborne pathogen.
So with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
We were 30 seconds over. You know that? 30 seconds, because I stopped looking at the clock to talk guns, germs, and steel with you. Which is fine. Just saying. You know, Chuck D, Public Enemy went over on their tour with the Sisters of Mercy and U2. And then the next night, that time that they went over was taken out of their set time. I'd share that with you. Timing is everything.
I understand none of your bizarre references.
Okie dokie.
I recognize you too because I hate them.
Of course you do. On a budget of 180 Marvel monies, this thing has made $322.6 million, as I said it would. I had no enthusiasm for this movie, but I knew it was going to do well, and you kind of argued with me, but I was like...
I did, and I shouldn't have. Look, I said it was going to suck, and I stand by that, because this movie
said it wasn't going to do as well. Like, you think like the gas had run out on this franchise, and I'm like, no, people still like dinosaurs. This is one of the rare franchises that has not annoyed the piss out of people.
Well, this movie will start. If there's any of these movies that's going to start that process, it's this one.
No, this movie is too sick. No, you're talking maybe for people who like really follow movies, like, you know, YouTubers and stuff. But there's when I say annoy people, I mean in the way that like Snow White annoys people. Like there's not a single Snow White in the Jurassic Park bunch, and this one's not either. This was the most safe, sanitized movie they could have possibly fucking made. It's pretty amazing, actually.
It is such a non-entity on anything approximating an artistic, creative, intellectual, or interesting level that everyone's going to forget it in 3 weeks.
Well, Superman's coming out this weekend, so they'll forget it by Thursday. As of July 6th,
at which point everyone will start arguing about that movie.
Yep.
Including us.
Jurassic World Rebirth has grossed $147.8 million in the U.S. and Canada, and $174.8 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $322.6 million. The Hollywood Reporter initially projected 100 to 125 million 5-day opening in the U.S. and Canada, while Deadline Hollywood projected 115 to 135 million. In the week of release, Deadline Hollywood projected an estimated 260 million global opening with a domestic 5-day of 120 to 130 million. It should be noted that this came out on July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July, which stands. 3 comes before 4. On July 5th, the film was projected to make 312 million worldwide during its 5-day opening weekend. The film would make 30.5 million in its opening day, which led to projections for its 5-day opening weekend increasing to at least 133.5 million. It would then make 25.3 million the next day, which resulted in the opening weekend prediction being revised again upwards, which is a nice change, to 137.5 million. On July 4th, it would make 26.3 million at the domestic box office, which resulted in Deadline Hollywood revising its budget, crossing everything
Okay,
out.
Can you just cut to the chase here?
Anyway, it ended up debuting 147.8 million over the 5-day 4th of July holiday, topping the box office, including 92 million for its 3-day weekend and 322.6 million worldwide during this time as well. In India, the film set a franchise record by having the highest one-day gross without any premieres. The film's highest grossing territories including China, United Kingdom, Mexico, and Germany. And that's that. All right. It was the number 1 movie of the weekend, displacing F1, the movie, which we'll talk about earlier this year in a triple feature. That one.
You know what? F1 has a pretty good hold there.
Yeah, only 54.8. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon dropped from 2 to 3. Ilio 3 to 4.
28. Ilio. No bueno.
28 years later, maintained its spot at number 5 in its 3rd week. Megan dropped from 4 to 6. Yeah. Please stop making Megan movies. Though I can't wait for Soulmate, and I hope it's the only one. And the only reason why I can't wait for Soulmate is because I'm a pervert. Lilo and Stitch dropped from 6 to 7. More on that.
You're gonna make me review that, aren't you?
You bet your sweet Pippi. Mission Impossible.
I will make it my mission to make that review the worst thing you've done on this network.
Like, that's a threat to me at this point. I'm numb to you. Materialist.
Oh, challenge accepted.
Damn it! I said the quiet part out loud. Never tell the narcissist what you're afraid of. Anyway, just kidding.
Hey, that actually kind of offends me.
Materialist.
You can throw a lot of diagnoses at me that I will not object to. That one I do.
I'm kidding. A little. Materialist dropped from 8 to 9. This is Spinal Tap, which is really funny. So we passed by the Spinal Tap poster on the way into the theater, and Jonas is like, "Hey, what's Spinal Tap? Isn't that one of them fake band movies? Tell me about what's all about Spinal Tap." And I looked at him like, "We don't have time. There's too much to tell you."
Son, because you call him son. I wish to tell you the lore of This is Spinal Tap, but I can't as we're going into this other movie.
Yeah, 40 Acres debuted at 12. Kill the Jockey 31. Hang the DJ, 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 hang the DJ. I'm gonna get content violated because I'm singing a Morrissey song. Sorry, the Smiths song. The Smiths. Everyone over 40, the Smiths.
I don't know that song, so
of course you don't. Nisha worldwide, baby. Still the number 1 movie in the world. Lilo and Stitch has finally reached number 2. It surpassed Minecraft. It is currently still under $1 billion at $974 million.
Yeah, it's not going to get to the billion mark, but it's more than successful enough for them to churn out 2 sequels and a Disney Plus show.
Mission Impossible is at number 4 with 576. Again, $400 million drop between Minecraft and Mission Impossible. How to Train Your Dragon's climbing up the charts at 519, which pushes Captain America: Brave New Turd down to 14.
hey, Captain America, you couldn't beat the How to Train Your Dragon live action.
Which is at 415. Thunderbolts died at 381 at number 7, and will slowly be pushed down the.
You know what, Mark? Can I just very briefly, because this movie's coming up soon. So it got released on Twitter because all the page shills got their go-ahead to say it, that the Fantastic Four is going to start Phase 6.
Yep.
At which point, everyone looked around and went, what the hell were Phases 4 and 5?
I know what they were, but they weren't. That's the funny thing. Like, I remember when Pepperidge Farm remembers. I remember when Kevin Feige laid out 4 and 5. And I think it was like Black Panther was the end of Phase 4, and everyone went, "It was?" and Thunderbolts is the end of Phase 5, and everyone's like, "It was?" Yeah, these were 2-year phases. Phase 4 was Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi,
Multiverse.
No, that's Phase 5.
No, that came out before Black Panther. I'm pretty sure.
Hang on, I know the order of these. I know Black Widow and Eternals was first. Marvel.
It was Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, and then I think it was Doctor Strange.
Maybe. I'm gonna read it. I have it right here. Okay. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals. We had it reversed. Oh, you're
Whatever.
Right. Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, and I was right. Black Panther was the end of Phase 4.
Yeah, so I knew we knew Black Panther 2 was the end of it, that turd.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. Phase 4 I kind of get is, multiverse-ish. What's Phase 5 apart from disappointing Disney Plus shows?
Well, it's funny because, like, you would think the end of a phase would be some sort of a capstone, like an Avengers movie. Or if you're, like, honestly...
The Thunderbolts is the new Avengers, Mark.
Well, that's the thing. I'm more talking about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. What was that supposed to be a capstone to? What was the...
We all miss Chadwick Boseman.
Like, it would have made more sense for either Spider-Man: No Way Home or Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness to capstone 4, and then because what kicks off Phase 5 is Ant-Man, and that's supposed to be, now we start going fast forward to Kang.
Have you seen how badly Ant-Man has ended people? You seen this recently?
No.
Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly both announced they've retired from acting.
in Angeline Lilly's defense, she's been acting for 20 years.
And Michael Douglas has been acting since the 60s.
Also fair. He's a little older.
Michelle Pfeiffer is still MIA. We know what happened with Jonathan Majors.
She's still in the microverse, or whatever the fuck it's called, the quantum realm.
We know what happened with Jonathan Majors after that movie.
Okay, but didn't he like settle everything? And it turns
No.
out like I don't remember what exactly was the result of all the allegations against him. He's currently acting, and there have been pieces saying that he's more or less. Go ahead, you tell me what you know, because you follow Twitter endlessly.
Look, the way that played out, like the criminal charges seem to not really be progressing, but the damage to his career and reputation is such that.
That's what I was referring to. I don't believe anything was ever provable, and I think he walked away from the whole thing. Now,
it was provable. She recanted because she did the crazy woman. Not to say, look, I'm not exonerating him of any of the wrongdoing he's done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying if you've seen how domestic malfunction works, she did the thing where you hurt me and you threw me down the stairs, and I'm also more than a little bit crazy on my own. So I'm sorry I called the cops on you after you threw me down the stairs. No, I won't be pressing charges.
Right. And because he's a celebrity, the DA is not going after him like they would normal people. Because I'll tell you, that happens a lot. So you and I are in a domestic violence situation. I call the cops to get you out of the house for the night so I can get a good night's sleep. And then the next day they're like, all right, what are we doing about this? I'm like, oh, I'm not going to press charges. Like, well, we'll press them for you. It's fine. That's how that normally goes. But it's Jonathan Majors, and he's a celebrity, so things are different. In any case, I think we're going to talk about that.
And this all happened in New York, so you know.
Yeah. So anyway,
but point being, he's done and dusted.
Thunderbolts ended phase 5, which at least kind of sort of capstone, maybe even a little bit, what they had done for the past 5 years.
Did it?
We've had this conversation.
I don't think it did.
I said kind of, sort of, maybe.
I don't. So look, phase 4 again. I can kind of see what was supposed to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 5, is just question marks.
I also think the TV.
What did we get out of this?
I also think the TV shows were supposed to carry more water than they did.
Clearly,
but a lot of the stuff got stopped, rewritten. Things weren't as successful as they should be. Oh, and by the way, if you must insist that we talk yet again on every episode about shitty Marvel stuff, I hear Ironheart's doing well.
If that was an intelligently written show, it would be a parody.
Here's the thing. I haven't watched a single bit of it. I haven't even I think I watched maybe one review on it just to make myself laugh while I was taking a shit.
So here's the thing.
But here's what I'll tell you. I don't know anyone that's actually watching it outside of YouTubers. And I want to know if that's what really happened here. Has Marvel gotten so bad that only people who make videos for a living to mock Marvel are the ones watching? Because that's really funny if that's true.
Mostly, and look, stuff will get traction on Twitter because people will like stuff. Like, only the racists don't like Ironheart. So, here's the other thing, because this is where we are with this. So, Riri Williams is a stupidly written character.
Mm-hmm.
And this group that she's part of has a secret lair, right? Because of course they do. She has Uber Eats delivered there to the secret lair, Mark.
Okay.
Now, it was pointed out that this is supremely dumb, because it is. And the number of people who went, well, Tony Stark gave his address to a terrorist on television in Iron Man 3, and we all collectively put our heads down and went, 1, his house then was blown up. 2, that's an expression of where his character is. That character is deeply insomniac, traumatized, and lashing out at an enemy because he desperately needs one to lash out at.
Yes, that is the end of the first act, where he has put his loved ones in danger and now has to go on a redemption arc.
She just orders Uber Eats because that's what she does.
So anyway,
and Mephisto shows up.
No.
Yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen is Mephisto.
I don't want to talk about it more. So anyway, Superman comes out this weekend. That'll be the number 1 movie of the weekend. It'll knock Jurassic World to number 2. I don't know what to make of the Superman movie. And when I talked about it on TikTok, I got yelled at and called a Snyder fan. So at this point, I'm just kind of wait and see mode. But Midnight's Edge ran a piece on it that said, the case something like the case against Superman. But it was like, I hadn't watched the video, so I can't say for certain. But I feel like his whole point of this video was that there's been a purposeful mounting attack against the Superman movie for some quarter of the internet, as if, which makes me think there's something about this movie that him and his ilk are trying to stand in front of and defend. And I don't know. The Superman movie feels like a mess, and I think the review embargo comes off of it tomorrow. So this is going to be a long week.
We'll see what happens. I mean, look, we're going to review it. And we are nothing if not honest here. You may disagree with us, but all opinions are our own, and they're all as well reasoned as we can make them be.
I'm so glad a piece of garbage like I Know What You Did Last Summer is between Superman and Fantastic Four, because I don't think I could take 2 weeks of this in a row.
Yeah. If it helps your mental health, I understand. I would rather not watch I Know What You Did Last Summer, because I have zero nostalgia for that property to begin with.
I have to actually do a deep dive, because I've not seen the original trilogy, nor have I seen the
You're not missing
show.
anything. I mean,
I'm making Sean and Alexis separately review them both.
Look, I understand. I'm probably going to wind up rewatching them because I want to make sure that I remember things clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when they came out, I remember not being impressed.
Yeah, well, they came out at the time that Scream and all that was big, and so
yeah, but Scream was impressive. The Faculty was impressive.
There was a lot of copycat stuff. Is my point.
Oh yeah, they don't have the same. They don't have the same poster. This was a genre of film that you could walk through the rental halls of your Blockbuster or Hollywood Video and see the teens in a line above the title card, preferably at an angle, and you knew what you were in for. Urban Legend is in the same vein. There's a bunch of these.
Well, folks, we've reached that time in record time. Thank God. I have things to do here. I'm in a rush. So here it is.
How are you?
The critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I think Chad Gable is taller than. I can't tell if that's the one guy from the Mexican tag team or if it's Dragon Lee.
What are you doing?
I'm watching Raw.
Is El Grande Americano on screen?
Yes.
That's not Chad Gable.
Oh, who is that?
It's Ludwig Kaiser now. Chad Gable's injured.
Oh, well, that would explain why he's taller.
Yes, that's the joke.
Aha! And now, starring as El Grande Americano, the Great Khali.
Anyway. No, because Chad Gable got an arm injury a little bit ago, and last week that was the big thing was we know Gable's out, and then then El Grande Americano shows up, but it's Ludwig Kaiser, so he's 6 inches taller, and more charismatic.
All right, as you can see, this is why we can't have nice things. The critical score is 52 on the tomato meter.
It should be lower.
But the audience score is 72. You can't fight City Hall. That's what I say.
You can. It just isn't easy.
So top critics, it's 43%. Oh, this was a giant PU. And then all critics.
There's nothing good about it.
Verified audiences don't give a hoot. They're at 72%. All audiences, it drops a little bit to 69, but not enough to get all hoot and holler.
Look, you can enjoy this movie if you like. I'm not telling you can't. I'm saying it's crap, and you should be honest about it.
The AI writes, going back to basics with rip-roaring set pieces, nope.
No.
And fossilized cliches, dirk. Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't evolve this prehistoric franchise but does restore some of its most reliable DNA.
No,
Bad
no,
AI!
no, no, no.
Bad AI!
Get bent.
Good
No,
God.
look. The original Jurassic Park, if nothing else, has ideas and a point of view and things to say. This doesn't at all.
Random Reddit writer says, equal parts comforting and terrifying, returning to the beloved Jurassic World is a thrill. And while predictable, Rebirth jumpstarts the franchise with dynamite. I'm going to look directly at you.
Okay.
Okay. I recently have been doing some thought experiments. Don't judge me and don't make any assertions like you've been doing. Just take my hand and cross this bridge with me.
I'm not going to touch you, but I will follow you.
Fair enough. But recently running some, after they passed the big, beautiful bill, and I had an existential crisis.
Of all the legislature to have an existential crisis of in your lifetime, you choose this one?
I work for a Medicaid provider, Dick. So,
so you're just worried about your job. You're not actually having an existential crisis.
Yes! That was my existential crisis.
Those aren't the same thing, but okay.
Anyway, so after I had a mild panic attack.
There you go. That I believe.
And I started, running calculations and numbers and scenarios, and this was all weekend. I went through the entire stages of grief, finally landing at acceptance.
Around the time you and Jesse did your triple feature.
That morning, yes. And in any case, I came to the conclusion that whatever happens, I'm okay with it. I'm living with it. I just want to make sure my son is successful in this world and everything.
You've given up on your daughter.
Not supposed to say the quiet part out loud. So I just want to make sure that Jonas is on the ark when it leaves, for the far reaches of space. That's really all I care about. And when I read that point, the reason why I'm saying this, when I look at what the audience consensus there is, it makes me double down on I'm fine with the world ending. I really am. It's fine. I'm good with the Elysium scenario where the best and brightest fucking take off and leave the rest of the dredges here. Good God.
What you need to do is get right with God, because the second coming is probably happening sooner than later.
This is a weird show. It's one of our weirder damn you Hollywoods. People, especially if this is the first time you're watching this, like, what the hell is this? Speaking of what the hell is this, Kyle Smith at the Wall Street Journal, top critic.
You need to share the screen again, Mark.
Oh, fuck you.
I have to be half a producer on this. I'm sorry.
Mr. Edwards' pacing is slow. His musical score by the veteran Alexandra Desplat, who seems to be running out of ideas, is corny and banal. His action sequence is pedestrian. At no point does anything shocking or even interesting happen.
Entirely correct, and I can't believe I'm saying that about the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. I suppose I should be reading from the fresh ones.
You find the people who make bad points, whether they agree with us in the end or not, is immaterial.
Alejandro Alemán of El Universal. Jurassic World Rebirth is a mediocre installment in the series, but superior if you think of it as a monster movie. Fantastic.
No, it's not. Monster movies deserve better than this.
Local lab rat turned into a real boy. Doug Walker of Channel Awesome.
That's a good one.
Thank you. When in the first 2 minutes a dinosaur escapes a high-security laboratory with candy wrapper, you know you've got a bad script.
I don't like agreeing with Doug Walker on principle, but here we are.
Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate. I haven't picked on her in a while.
It's been a minute, yeah.
Why do people go to the movies? We ask that every week here, Susan.
We really do.
Week. For entertainment. That's why popular franchises flourish.
Tell that to the MCU.
Tell
that to Star Wars.
This installment continues Spielberg's original vision, although
no, it doesn't.
Awe as if those enormous creatures were real is missing, except in one scene. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, no, nothing about this comes close to the original.
Susan's reviews are like my mom explaining her political point of view. She sat at the table across from me and she's like, Trump is ruining America. And I'm like, well, how, Mom? How is Trump ruining America? Because he's ruining America. Thank you, Susan Granger and Susan Radulich.
Thank you for your circular logic. We appreciate it. You are the kind of person who says the Bible interprets the Bible, and I have to take you seriously.
Speaking of the Bible interpreting the Bible, Jeff Harris of 401mania.com. Jurassic.
I don't know why that transition just hit me like that, but for some reason, you likening Jeff to a Calvinist tickled me.
Jurassic World Rebirth now brings
Actually,
the
that's all.
franchise to a point where it's just pointedly spinning its wheels and pumping out grotesque hybrid creatures, much like
True.
InGen, rather than creating a new adventure with a genuinely innovative or exciting new plot.
He is entirely correct, and his overall score is at 5 out of 10 is still generous.
Barry Hertz of Globe and Mail, top critic.
Does it?
Rebirth? This is a burial. Thank you, Jonas.
Yes, we appreciate Jonas's contributions.
Let's see.
Oh no, someone from the Mary Sue was down there a little bit.
The Mary Sue. Rachel Leichman of course he's Rachel Leichman of the Mary Sue. Of course you are, 3D. Gareth Edwards made a fun summer blockbuster. It isn't reinventing the franchise, but it does show a clear path forward.
No, it doesn't. Okay, hold on. A clear path forward. By all means, enlighten me. What's the path forward for this franchise now?
Let's see here.
Gormless bag of wasted stem cells.
Gisane Sophia of Lady Geeks Media. Jurassic World Rebirth is undoubtedly one of the most entertaining films of the summer.
Oh, get bent! Go play in traffic!
It's a roaring good time, full of surprising moments of levity, satisfying character journeys, and a solid, genuinely hopeful message we could all use these days. Yes, more free drugs.
If you're 7, are you a 7-year-old?
Good golly, Miss Molly.
You're professionals.
Yes, they are. A lot of these people draw paychecks. Not for much longer. Not until they're replaced by AI.
Ugh. I'd rather look at a large language model approximation of a review than some of this crap.
Hey, look, it's one of your wives. The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfrey, Carla Hay of Culture Mix. Jurassic World Rebirth should be called Jurassic World Rehab. It delivers plenty of action, but it borrows heavily from the plot of Jurassic World 3 with no real innovation or surprises. Sorry. Regarding who lives, who dies, and what the dinosaurs do.
Okay, hang on. Do you remember the plot of Jurassic World 3, Mark?
Vaguely.
What does it have in common with this one?
You tell me, Robert.
The answer's nothing. That poor, stupid woman was trying to say Jurassic Park 3.
Ah, got it. Speaking of Jurassic Park 3, Amy Nicholson of Los Angeles Times, top critic.
Speaking of T-Rexes that have been blended with orc DNA through foul magic in the pits of Mordor.
Rebirth is a confounding title for a downbeat entry that's mostly preoccupied by death and neglect.
How do you get to death? Like, neglect, I get. This is a neglected movie. But...
Well, I think she was implying something else, and I don't know how she got there. However, Beyond the trailer, Grace Randolph. Jaws, but also on land. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah, can I tell you, the Jaws homages in this got real old real fast.
Too many nods to Spielberg films, therefore the movie never develops its own identity.
True.
There's too much talking, plus turning the dinosaurs into monsters makes this a monster movie. Why lose what makes this franchise special?
This franchise lost what made it special 2 movies in.
See if we can find any more of your wives. They're always fun to pick at.
You know, when I do get married, that's going to make a lot of this awkward.
Like I'm going to stop.
That's why it'll be awkward.
Liz Shannon Miller, who hangs out with Rachel Leichman of the Mary Sue. But this one's from Consequence, top critic. She gets paid for this.
I got some consequence for you.
Ooh, doggy. The second best Jurassic movie ever made.
Go shove your head up.
Admittedly, this isn't a huge compliment, as it could be, given the movies that have preceded it. Fantastic.
Pull your lower lip over your head and swallow. Just rid the world of your stupidity. What the?
All right. Well,
How do you get? I don't even like most of the other movies in this franchise. How do you get to this being better than any of them?
Well, folks, speaking of swallowing huge loads, we have reached the end of Damn You Hollywood.
Why?
If you set me up, I'm going to go for the ball. I mean, if I hit the net, that's fine, but still.
No, you hit the ball boy over in the corner. That's what you did with that one.
Shouldn't have been standing there. Listen.
In the face.
This week is a loaded week for me. I fucking loaded up this week. Didn't realize what I had done to myself, so I have to watch all the things. So yesterday, myself and Jesse Starcher had a wonderful conversation about 3 Barry Levinson movies: Good Morning Vietnam, Sleepers, and Wag the Dog. Wednesday, myself and Harry Broadhurst will be talking Game Changer Wrestling, Backyard Wrestling 7. One of my favorite events of the year. Thursday, Shay Tate is back. Good old adorable Shay Tate. And we're going to be talking 3 musicals. Odessa from Hulu, The End, which came at the end of 2024. And Dear Evan Hansen. Yes, sir. I don't remember why I put it on there. Yeah.
So you're planning on spending an evening with your daughter, I take it?
Jonas wanted to watch it tonight. I just didn't have time. Friday, late Friday night, myself and Pat Mullen will be talking Tulsa King Season 2. And
That's a good show.
Yeah, I'm currently about halfway through Season 2 right now. I've enjoyed it so far. And that's it. Next week, Sunday is Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. It's back. We're talking Bloodywood, New Delhi, which came out a little ways back. We'll be reviewing here Superman. God help us.
We'll have a good time.
Wednesday, Alexis and I will be reviewing I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Amazon Prime show. Thursday, myself and Sean Comer go back on the long road to ruin, and we review the 3 I Know What You Did Last Summer movies.
I still know what you did last summer, and I'll always know what you did last summer.
And then somewhere around the time that I should be watching Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois, myself and Evan Bevins, good to his mother, Some Language, we'll be doing a comic strip. We'll be reviewing the 2014 Hercules movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and the comic book of which it has been adapted. Robert Winfrey, tell us all the things you're covering against your will, but only because they pay you.
Well, funny you should bring that up. About an hour before we started, I got hit up to cover NXT's The Great American Bash on Saturday, which will end about 15 minutes before the UFC event on Saturday starts.
I commend you for not doing copious amounts of drugs.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, Saturday I will be covering NXT's Great American Bash. I know nothing about it. I don't know the card. I don't watch NXT.
I think you should lean into that with your coverage. I know you're a professional, God damn it, so you're not. But you should be like Broad number 1, Tits McGee number 2. Random large black guy versus skinny white guy.
I know who Obafemi is. Come on, I don't have to be that reductive.
Black guy built like a wall.
So I will be covering that. I know a little bit. I'll read a few recaps. I'll figure out what's up by the time I get to it. But I'll be covering that. Then later that Saturday, I will be covering UFC on ESPN 70. They are in Tennessee. And for some reason,
Hot balls, baby. Hot balls.
Shut up.
Hot balls. Oh, my favorite hot balls is back.
You know what, Mark?
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it just for hot balls.
No, you're not.
It's on my calendar.
Mark, I'm going to send you the last 5 Derek Lewis fights.
You know what? I'll watch them if you'll do an alternative commentary, like live reaction to these.
I covered all of them.
Yeah, but you're live reacting to me, who's live reacting to Derek Lewis.
They're all terrible.
I know.
Because I know how. Look, I can tell you how your experience will go. You go, hey, there's Derek Lewis. Oh, he missed a punch. Oh, he's on his back. We're gonna be here for 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay, round 2. Oh, Derek Lewis. Oh, he missed a punch. Oh, he's on his back again. And we're gonna be here for another 5 minutes, aren't we? Oh, the third round. Now he's gonna start swinging. Oh, hey, he stopped a takedown this time. Maybe nope, he's gonna miss everything, and we're just gonna go the other 5 minutes. This is the Derek Lewis story. I've watched all of that man's UFC. I've covered his entire UFC career, Mark. Every one of them.
I think I had read something where they asked him a question. He was just like, "I'm fine fighting tomato cans. This is fine for me." Taxi drivers, that's what he called them. He was like,
Yeah.
"I'm good just fighting taxi drivers. I don't want a title shot."
Yeah. I can respect that.
Mm-hmm.
What I can't respect is the UFC deciding that he's a suitable main event in 2025 against a guy who's 1-0 in the UFC and 8-0 overall.
Well, Bob Sapp wasn't available. Finish up.
Bob Sapp can't make 265 or they'd hire him.
It broke it in my nose.
There's a few people in the UFC who do the Bob Sapp thing, I'm fairly convinced.
Okay.
They come out and they try their best for as long as they can. And then the goal is to get submitted in fairly short order.
Right. So you don't get injured and you can take another gig.
So yeah, you don't get hurt
Mhm.
and you can fight again in fairly short order.
Yeah.
I think Terrence McKinney does that.
It worked for Bob Sapp. You know how much money he made in his tour of defeat?
Yeah, but Bob Sapp's also like 6'8" and 400 pounds. I couldn't do that. Bob Sapp can because he's a freak show attraction. Anyway.
Fair enough.
So I'll be covering that event on Saturday as well, and that's not a very good card. Other people are arguing with me about that apparently, but I think it sucks. Friday, I'll be covering WWE SmackDown, which at least is 2 hours again instead of 3, so I had to waste my 4th of July evening covering SmackDown that was pre-taped, and I was bitter about that.
You bitter? The devil, you say?
Yeah, I know. It's so out of character.
Mm.
And I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, where we look at the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. This week was a preview of UFC on ESPN 70, a discussion about the decline in MMA business because it is demonstrably declining. UFC's fine, but MMA as a whole, not so much. And there's actual data to back that up. So you can listen to that. I also talk about Donald Trump wanting to host a UFC event at the White House next year to celebrate the 250th birthday of America.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
I'm of two minds about that. I really am.
This much closer to the actual idiocracy.
No. Look, if the winner of the main event gets a cabinet position, then yes, but
Somebody commented on one of my TikToks. I was like, how close are we to spraying the lawn with Gatorade? The crops with Gatorade.
we're fairly, depending on where in the world we're talking about, we're moderately far off from that.
All right, wrap it up, Sonny. And I do mean wrap it up. 50 words or less.
So, yeah, next week, Superman back here. Mark and I will fist fight over that. Be a grand old time, per usual. We thank you all very much for tuning in, for listening to our shenanigans. It means a lot to us. Anything you can do to help the product is always appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, star rating, written review, whatever's applicable to wherever you're listening to us. So thank you for that. And really, if you don't want to do any and all of that, just the fact that you're listening at all is really the most important thing. So thank you very much.
Well, folks, as he said, thank you for joining us here on JMU Hollywood. He's Robert. I have TikToks to make. Be well, be safe, and behave.